Tell me a story.
My daughter Claire was diagnosed with macular degeneration at the age of 6. I've always been very open with my daughter about life in general, so I didn't hide this unfortunate news from her, but instead decided to work my hardest to prepare her for life with this disability. Claire was scared, of course, as any 6-year-old would be.
Mama, will I lose my sight before the next snowfall?
She asked me timidly. It was only September and the doctor gave her until January. Still, I didn't want to get her hopes up too much, so I told her we would leave it in God's hands. In the meantime, I read every book and blog about helping a child to cope with blindness. That was how I found out about Blind Belle. It was a doll manufactured by a private company that said they only made them for special circumstances, and that all funds would go toward other children with similar conditions. Despite the odd name, I did actually think that the doll looked somewhat pleasant. It was a small rag doll about the size of an average teddy bear, wearing a blue church dress and had blonde hair and blue eyes. She had a nice smile and, according to the webpage, had a built-in voice box that says certain phrases so that your child wouldn't feel lonely or lost. I had planned to buy her a new doll for Christmas, but as time slipped by, I realized that the doctor's initial diagnosis was wrong, and she wouldn't be able to wait until then. So I went ahead and ordered it, hoping to surprise her around Thanksgiving. Sadly enough, when the box came in, I was the one shocked to see that the doll was badly damaged. Her stitching looked ripped and her clothes faded. Her hair a dirty color, and worst of all, someone had taken her blue button eyes out. I wanted to get a refund on it right away, but every time I tried to contact customer support, the line would be busy. Frustrated that I had been scammed, I placed it down on the couch and went to cook dinner to get my mind off things. A few moments later, I heard Claire squeal with delight, and I looked in the living room and saw her playing with the doll.
Mama, you got me my own special friend. Oh, thank you, Mama, thank you,
she said as she happily danced. I saw tears welling up in her eyes just barely, and I realized that her sight was almost gone. She couldn't tell what bad condition the doll was really in. I didn't have the heart to correct her, so I let her keep it. I figured that I'd be able to sew her up and make her as good as new. But Claire almost never let her leave her side. Why don't you let me hold her? I suggested one day.
You can't. Then she'll forget about me, and she'll be lonely,
Claire said desperately. I couldn't argue with that. Still, some of what Blind Belle said started to bother me.
Don't ever leave me,
she would say sometimes when I walked by Claire's room.
Don't be afraid of the dark. I'll be right here,
she said when I tucked Claire into bed. I thought once my daughter was asleep, I could take the time to get the doll and maybe clean it up. I knew I would have to take the electronic components out and hand wash it, but still, if we were going to keep the thing, I knew it would need to be done. I snuck into her room to take Belle to the washer, and I heard that voice again.
I see you,
Belle said softly. I froze and looked at the doll. The voice sounded even more unnatural than before. I reached to grab it up when she started making a soft melody.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word.
Claire woke up and started crying.
Don't take her away, Mama, you can't.
My daughter cried. I relented and went back to bed. I heard a soft laugh come from the doll as I left the room. I lay in bed thinking of that strange blind doll and trying to push my knees aside. I wanted Claire to be happy. I wanted her to just have a normal life, and maybe I was overreacting about the doll anyway. In the morning, I decided it was time to convince Claire to let me have her. I kept the room dark for a minute as I walked to where my little girl slept. I've done this for a while since she lost her sight, to try to get a feel of the world the way she does. It felt wet. Something was right against her cheek and eyes. I turned on the light and screamed in horror. My little girl was lying there, her eyes ripped from her skull. The scream only became louder when I heard Belle giggle. And I saw Claire's blue eyes staring at me from within her stitching.
I see you, Mama.